Live.
Live.
Now we're live.
Hey, Andy.
Yes, Bambos.
Yana Fay Dzedze.
Yana Fay Dzedze.
Overcoming Rage.
Overcoming Rage, Bambos. Something that I think you have some background in, I think.
Absolutely.
And myself as well, actually.
Yeah.
And what are we doing in this song?
Wonderful Chaos.
Ba-dee-da. Boom, ba-dee-da.
Are you done?
No, somehow I could sing that the whole way through this.
I know, actually. So, welcome, guys. Episode 56.
56. Here we are. Here we are, Bambos. You and me. I feel like we can sing a song. Just you and me now.
Please don't. I think Andy's a bit tired today.
Exhausted.
And this is his way of trying to create energy
for himself.
Yeah.
I had 3 coffees this morning as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good for you. Yana Fay, Andy.
Yana Fay.
I've only had a couple of interactions with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we've interviewed her husband.
Yeah.
And I always see her husband as this kind of, he embodies like this kind of king masculine towards a wild savage.
Mm-hmm.
And then like any woman that can stand next to that vibration has got to be a fucking queen.
Really?
Like full on.
Yeah, because she's gotta like tame the beast.
Well, in a weird way, if you take the masculine and feminine, right?
Yeah.
What I learned in Tantra was the masculine is the riverbed.
Okay.
So it's like a rock solid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it contains the river. And the river is like this strong energy. It contains life in it. It attracts life.
Mm-hmm.
Animals come to it. People put their villages next to on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might think the riverbed is the one giving the direction, but eventually it's the water that gives the direction.
Mm-hmm. So you're telling me she wears the pants in the family?
I wouldn't dare. we can ask her. And when I spoke to her, Andy, and like there was absolutely no resistance. Like there was like, let's do it. And we're going to talk about a subject that a lot of people can be very judgmental on, and like overcoming rage. I mean, that's vulnerable. So and the fact that I didn't feel any resistance, it says so much about her as a person.
Yeah, the one thing people might not be aware of is that, like, when we invite people on, we don't invite them to discuss where they're an authority. Like, we invite them where they feel like they're comfortable being vulnerable with us around a subject that's interesting to all of us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting take on things, because a lot of times when people go out and say, hey, let's be on a show, then it's like, let's pretend like we know more than other people so that other people feel uncomfortable that they might not be as far ahead as we are.
And let me try to sell my services.
Obviously, on the back end. So it's kind of fun to sort of say, hey, listen, we know you have a lot of information and content that is also interesting, but we're going to ask you for the hour not to go to that. Just sit with us in a subject that we'll all agree to sort of investigate together. And that's what I love about the hour, is that we don't have to listen to someone moan on about whatever it is they think that they know better than the rest of the world. I'm over that in my life now. And yet there's still people that have incredibly interesting things to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought was fun just to also, before Yana Fay Dzedze,
just Yana,
before Yana comes on, I thought it was really great because we also mentioned that we had her husband on. I wrote it down, Nianiso. I got that right. It only took me a week. We had Nianiso on Monday, and I thought it was so funny because Nianiso was also discussing a very vulnerable topic, and like how it is to feel attraction to other women while you're in a relationship with one, right? How to deal with that tension. And what I thought was fantastic about it was that, like, while he's dealing with that, Yana has to deal with the rage that also comes up because of that. So I think that's also going to be a fun. Potentially, obviously.
So in my mind, it could also be the other way around. I'm with a raging woman to the point that I need to find another feminine that embodies an opposite energy.
Okay.
Like, it could work both ways, right?
I could, except we talked to him already. So I had the feeling that after that talk, he wasn't necessarily, he's not a what do you call it? Wilting willow or something. No. He's a man. He's a manly man.
He's a manly man.
So without further ado, I think we can bring her on. Yana Dzedze.
Ta-da!
Hello.
Da-da-da-da-da.
There she is.
Hey.
Did you get to watch the show with? Is it your husband or is it a partner, or how do we phrase them?
Husband.
He
is my husband.
Did you get to watch the show with your husband so that you actually understood?
I didn't watch it, but I was laid in bed in the other room listening in as you were recording live. So I was catching his end of the things that were being spoken.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything he said
I kind of heard half of it.
Anything you'd like to correct while you have the chance?
Not at all. Not at all.
His version of events.
In fact, no. In fact, he shared some things on that call that we ended up having a conversation about. Wow. But it wasn't that there was incorrect. It was like, oh, okay, you shared things there that I want us to go in and unpack and explore. So we did. We ended up having really beautiful conversations off the back of the conversation that he had with you, which was great. But no, nothing inaccurate or nothing to defend. Nothing like that.
That's beautiful. Bambos warned me that before we talk, you might want us to breathe.
I mean, I'm big on intentions. I'm big on breathing, but
why do you look at me like that?
I'm also just here to,
you misunderstood me.
I'm also just here to like.
How did I misunderstand you?
Other context, but it's good. We can always take a deep breath in.
Yes, you could do that.
Deep breath in to ground in is always good.
So you look like a real rager. If I had to spot one on the street, you look like someone that could go into a deep, deep rage.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way until you agreed with me.
There is that in me.
Yeah.
And I have had to learn how to understand it, how to speak to it, and how to not let it run me. So it exists. There's definitely been times in my life where I have emulated. I have the most fiery, my mother, she's beautiful. My mama, she's gorgeous, but she is the most fiery woman I know. And she definitely showed me a very good example of what explosive rage looks like on several occasions throughout my childhood. And so I learned, like, okay, that's what you do. Like, my parents were very in love, and okay, so if you're in love, you rage and you let it all out. And we got to a point where Yana, my husband, had to call me forward and go, hey, that's not going to work. Like, it's not healthy. We can't do that. And I had to really look at it and assess it.
I think all three of us have that, by the way, just to make sure we all put our cards on the table at the beginning. So you're not in any, I've been on the back end of Bambos's rage to the point that it scared the shit out of me. So I know it won't.
He poked the bear quite a few times.
Trying to help somebody go to their dark childhood trauma and realizing, oh no, can I get myself out of this? When I've noticed when I've raged, and I'm curious if it's the same for the two of you, like there's almost like the frontal lobe. It's almost like it's like or you might even just call it the amygdala, right? Like that there's no capacity to reason. It's just like it's expression of the greatest helplessness It's almost like exhaustion to the where one would see it as an aggressive act, but actually for me, it's the greatest helpless act.
I love that way of seeing it.
But would you see it that way? Could you see it? Could you identify with that as well? Or would that be?
Yeah. And for me, it's the thing that I really identify with is this, like, at all costs, I will get you on my side, and I will insist that you see things my way to validate the things that I'm feeling right now. Like, my experience has to be validated, and I will make sure that I rage until you're on my side. Yeah. Like, that was, wow, that was a big part of it for me. And, you know, occasionally comes up still. Not so much. But.
Do you see, I don't know how it is for you, but I went through a phase where, you know, I'd go to the rage, and then I would go through the guilt and the shame afterwards. Like, it would kind of be that cyclical, I let out the emotion, and then I feel like, oh, I'm such a bad person.
Yeah.
And then I suppressed the emotion again, and then it came out in rage, and then it would be like, oh, now I'm going to judge the emotion again. And I remember the first time that I consciously let out rage, where I actually shouted and I laughed, almost like enjoying it, like as if it was a new tool in my toolkit, as opposed to reactive, like, oh, like I have to, I'm a prisoner to reaction, as would have been how it was before. And after, it was like, wow, this is fun.
Beautiful.
And I don't know if either of you have that kind of experience, like, wow, I can live this experience and not have anything, have it feel dirty or wrong or anything.
Well, I've had, I mean, since I did a 50-month course with Andy, where I was really forced to go deep into that anger, that the stuff that I didn't want to feel, I even like connect to me. And when I came out of that journey, I couldn't find it anymore. Like the reactiveness to react to things wasn't there. And I've only went into anger, rage fully, and it was beginning of 2019. But it was to penetrate bullshit, and I didn't feel anything in me which shouldn't be there. It was like fully present, beautiful, but I didn't laugh.
But did you feel good about it though?
I felt really good about it. It didn't feel so good for the other person, by the way.
Okay, it was to another person.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know how it is for you guys.
I think sacred rage.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. Sacred rage. Like, I think when we can direct it in the right way, it can become like the sword that penetrates what needs to be penetrated. And yeah, I think there's a time and a place for everything. Is there not?
Yeah.
So, I remember, like, why would we? Yeah.
I used to judge it heavily, so that was my Achilles heel, of course.
I think rage is quite a lot like spew, or like needing to go to the toilet. It's like something that we do, right? We have there's function, there's purpose to it, but we've got to know where and in what context it is acceptable to. Like, you know, I can't just go, I feel rage, so I'm just gonna rage anywhere at anything in any direction. It's like, I need to vomit, and I'm not gonna make sure that I like go and find a bucket to vomit in. I really need the toilet, so I'm just gonna like let loose here. Like, I think that having structures that allow us to release, because it is a release, right? Like, having structures to release is one of the biggest things. And I think that for me, it feels yucky if I haven't been intentional about where to place it. When I've like just let loose, and then suddenly I've got to tidy things up because actually that was in the wrong place. That's been my experience of it.
I'd love to touch on this because there's a funny, like, I always, yesterday's show was on truth. And for me, I'm always seeing truth as basically a context. And so, for instance, in the context of me and my relationship, when Ronnie rages,
his wife,
my wife, we always qualify. Thank you, ma'am. I'm always happy. Like, I'm like, oh, wow, she's getting her full expression out. Like, this is great. And then I'll usually give her a hug and let her ground. So the weird thing is as I think to myself, imagine if I said to her, baby, this isn't the right way to do it. Oh, you've got to find a time and a place. Or, so it's almost like, what can any relationship bear in regards to rage, as opposed to the proper way to rage? Because I often, in my own life, I'd rather everyone get their full expression and then no one get to play the victim and say, hey, the way you're talking to me is, because I already feel comfortable enough in my own being that I don't need you to be any other way for me to be comfortable. So there's a weird sort of struggle in that, I know, because it's so easy to say, yeah, but, and I did it for years. Anger is bad. Anger is bad. Anger is bad. I did it because I judged my dad, who was always angry and, verbally abusive. And it was only later when I started to like really welcome anger, like, well, the more angry you are, the more I feel loved by you, because I see that's a struggle you can't articulate any other way.
It takes trust.
In yourself, actually, not in the other. It takes trust in yourself. I trust that I'm okay whether you're angry at me or not.
Well, I'm talking about the person that's raging.
So
it also takes trust.
But yeah, of course, if you're throwing things, if you're physically throwing things at them, that might be different than if you're just verbally yelling, Yeah.
So the thing that really got me, really got me, one time I raged, I just let it all out. I let my anger fly. It was messy. And then Yanis, my partner, he said, the partner at the time, we weren't married then, said to me, what I ask of you to understand is that when you scream and yell and rage and the neighbors hear you, I'm the monster. And when I scream and yell and rage, I'm the monster. And so that was the context of me going, you know what? I need to honor that. So that was the piece that really shifted things for me in understanding a new context.
That throws me back totally. Yeah. That's insane, because it's true. It's somehow always the man. He must be doing something terrible.
Yeah, I noticed that. Just made me take a deep breath in when you said that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yana, back to your mama. Did you experience her rage like onto you as a force? Or was it just between your parents?
Yes. No, my mama raged anywhere and any time, and there's some beautiful, my cousins still laugh about the time when they came over to play and she was chasing me up the stairs with a broom, and I learned to be like her, and so I learned to also emulate that explosive, fiery thing, and I thought, if my mama can do it, so can I. And we would just explode at each other. It was just crazy fireworks, and she'd explode at my dad, and my dad and I never really exploded. But yeah, me and my mama, yeah, of course. And it was just a thing. It was just a thing.
I mean, were there dishes? Would dishes fly across the house when we talk about this? Is that the level of rage we're at, or is this just verbal?
I think just verbal.
Oh, nice.
Just verbal. Yeah.
I'm just looking at the backdrop. Oh boy.
Verbal dishes.
Yeah, I only got verbal dishes as well. Dad wasn't physically violent, but I mean, they often say verbal abuse is even worse emotionally than physical at times, right? Yeah. And
it was always an expression of her. Something else I want to clarify is that it was always an expression of her emotion and her feelings. It was always, I am feeling, and I think that was a big part of it as well. There was never an intentional you're gonna take it. It was just fiery and explosive, and yeah, as much as it's something that I've had to curb within myself, it's also something that I kind of fondly look back on.
How many people will no longer talk to you because of that? Like, how many people have left you because of rage and said, I just can't, I won't be around you anymore? Has that ever been the case?
No, I've never raged at people that I haven't felt safe enough to rage with.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I've never like, it's always been in a context where I feel safe enough to like, I guess it's a level of vulnerability. I don't think I've ever like raged at a stranger or raged at someone that I don't have a close relationship with.
Like I was in the park working out one morning, and these two guys were just passing with the bikes, and one of them got off the bike and chased the other guy, and he was so angry, and I thought they were going to start killing each other. So I went there. I'm like, listen, guys, it's like 7 o'clock in the morning now, and I think this guy that's shouting, I think he's really having a bad day, and you guys don't need to go into this. And the guy that was shouting looked at me, and he started crying. That was really powerful. Like, you just started crying just from that recognition. You're having a bad day. It's not about this other guy.
Wow.
Huge.
Like the reactive rage, the blind rage.
Yeah. I mean, that's what when I was saying, that's the helplessness behind it. And it's like, since people don't spot it, but they react to the outward expression, they actually start blaming the other without necessarily seeing that's probably when they need a hug the most, which is kind of a paradox. You know, they need to hug the most while they're raging. It's just doesn't make any sense. By the way, we have a big South African contingent at the moment.
This is one of Nyaniso's followers. Also, I met Pulelang from Nyaniso also.
Did you? She's been reading the last letter and posting beautiful things on my timeline.
So I've never thought of anger in the way that you are discussing it here. As a person whose anger subsides quickly, I need to understand how others experience it. At times I get so angry, but by the time I open my mouth to express myself, it is gone.
So that's a good question. I would love to ask, is it gone, or have you rationalized it away so that it no longer needs to come out? Like, that would be a really nice, because I've seen sometimes I'll be angry, and then in my mind, I'll create some reasoning why I shouldn't be angry. And it doesn't that the anger goes away. It's just I've justified it in a way so that I can park it. You know? Fucking right. You know what I also do sometimes is I start screaming in the house. Just screaming.
I growl.
And Ronnie, my wife, she always wants to know what's going on. I said, babe, I just need to let out some steam, you know? I just need to let out some steam. You know, and I'll just use all the cuss words and yell and scream, and nothing specific, no one directed. But just like, I have so much energy, I need it out. Like, now I feel like I need it out. Like, after 3 coffees and like just tired, like you know, you hear me singing and my knees bouncing. This is the moment I'm just like want to scream.
Just do it.
Thank you. Feels much better now.
It's so exhilarating. It's just like, just gives me life.
Sorry about that. It feels so much.
No. Sorry, don't even go.
No. I was looking at the face of I can't pronounce Bolalang. Bolalang. I just wanted to apologize to her because her face was up when I was. Or is it him? I didn't see the. Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of my friends that that I have spoken to about this, I've later learned that their father often would also have the same rage. And I was always thinking as a kid that like I was in a special situation, like no one else has to deal with this. You know, I'm in this suffering. Everyone else has a perfect childhood. And it was only curious. I think I don't even know if it was only until like my 40s or my 50s I realized, oh my God, there's so much dysfunction. Or like sexual abuse, you know, like that's another one that, you know, you kind of think, oh, it happens so seldom, but you're like, when you really understand how many people have had that happen and occur, it's massive. So there are these things in life that I think people don't realize they're really not alone in that experience.
And when we think of how those things are such a deep violation of boundaries, like being on the receiving end of that is such a huge violation of boundaries, that especially as children, when we experience that, it's difficult to then establish boundaries. And that's where rage comes in. That's where the anger comes in. It's like, I haven't been able to map my boundaries, and now you've crossed the lines, or the lines have been crossed, whether I articulated them to you or not, whether they were named or not. Maybe they were completely invisible lines that you stepped over, and now I'm just like explosive and raging. And I think a big part of it is just this violation of boundaries, and this lack of care and consideration for like how to learn what boundaries are. That was a big part of my journey, having to go like, oh, it's not what you did, it's that I didn't communicate that I didn't want you to do that thing, because you wouldn't have done that thing if I'd have communicated it. That was confronting.
Beautiful. So every time I would get angry, it would be like, oh wow, I trespassed myself there.
Exactly.
Yeah, that going back again to that feeling, like it's the ultimate helplessness. It's like it comes from a place where there's nothing else I can do. Like, what else? I can't do anything else.
I can't solve this.
I can't solve it. I can't say no. I don't know what I'm saying yes to.
If you think of children, babies, they cry, right? They need that outlet.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we try to shush them down. It's okay to shush them if the baby's crying for an hour, but in general, the crying really is a release from all the impact of the outside world.
I work with this program often. I support it. Since I don't have children myself, I don't necessarily practice it outside of my coaching, but it's called hand-in-hand parenting. And I think we'll have her on the show, Patty Wiffler, because we correspond enough. She's such a soft-spoken, lovely lady. I just don't trust myself with her on the air. I've told her I want to have her, but I'm kind of like, I want to almost like, I have to treat her in sort of reverence a bit more than I might other guests. But the thing is that they have the practice, which is they basically see children throughout a day. So if they take the children out for a day to an exciting place, the children will build up a lot of emotion because they'll pick up the energy of wherever they are. They'll go to an exciting place, and then they'll try to come home, and they won't be able to what they'll say is like ground that energy. So what'll happen is the parents will purposefully incite the children to rage. I'd say throw a temper tantrum. Yeah.
Huge.
So they'll, like, the child might say, I want a dessert. And then the parent will say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't give you that dessert. I know you want that dessert. Yeah, but I want that dessert. I know you want it, but I can't give it to you. I know you want, like, they'll repeat it over and over again. Wow. And then the kid will start to let out the emotion. They'll start to free themselves of the emotion that's actually like vibrating. And then it's the parent's duty. It's stay listening. They'll hold this child while the child is even fighting to get out of their arms, because the child is so enraged in all that energy until the child settles. And then the child finally kind of like cries, lets it out. And then at the end, it's almost like you see like a night and day difference. It's kind of amazing to see. And and the thing is that the friend that I saw doing this, and they would do it in places that weren't necessarily used to seeing this. So happened in a supermarket, and basically the child is now arms flailing everywhere, screaming and shouting. And then the mom is holding, and then she's settling. And then another person watching comes over to her and says, don't you see, you're abusing your child. You're abusing your child. You're abusing your child. Right. And then the little girl, who is very emotionally developed and very understanding of what even she's aware of the process she's going through. She looks at this old lady that comes over and says, don't you see she's just stayed listening? I'm having trouble with my emotions and she's helping me figure out how to ground. Like she even understands what's going on. Explains to this to this individual that just can't understand that, emotions are meant to be let go of, not to be held on to. Yeah.
I don't think it's something that we can rationally understand, but like I feel it in my body when you speak.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do the same with people in business. So I actually feel like, although it's a tool for parents and children, I've often said, wow, when I'm holding somebody's space, and they're having a hard time, like I often don't try to soften the time. I think that sounds terrible. It's really bad. Oh no, it's really bad. Oh, it's much worse than you think it is. Just pushing them to like kind of ground into feeling.
I feel uncomfortable right now. I remember being
You're like, that's what you were doing all this time? Give me an example. I want to hear back something I did just so I can laugh at it.
I think when I was talking to you about my ex, right?
Okay.
Like you would just sit there like, oh man, like how do you put up with that? How do you put up with that? And you would just be feeding and feeding and feeding. And then I'd break down crying and release.
But I'm sorry, you were just a tool in my toolkit, Bambos.
Do you know what it is though? Like sometimes if I give him gratitude, there's been numerous times in my life where he might have sat there for like a couple of hours listening to me rant, and like the space that he held for me, like, wow, what a gift. Like what a gift. Like I can even start
me too.
Crying right now.
Yeah. Well, when one isn't given that in their life, I had my mom till I was 20. So I had an example of what real unconditional love looked like. Like I knew it well. And then she died, of course. And then I, had to feel what life felt like with the loss of that. And in a way, I think when you find it in yourself, being able to give it to others is actually also giving it to yourself. Because in a way, I know your childhood enough to know that whatever I got in terms of emotional support, even if I write about how hard it was, I know that there's levels of, like I have examples I could pull from.
Yeah.
And those references, like Yana was saying with your mom, right? Like, I would be like my dad because I would judge anger. So I didn't want to be angry. So I suppressed it for weeks or months on end. And then when it did finally come out, it would come out in rage. So that I understood well until I was like, wow, this anger thing, like even today, I'm like, I'll turn it on purposefully. Like it's a little switch in my brain, like, oh, I can go to that now. And then I'll just play that card in my head, let's say. It's kind of fun.
I love like the glimmer in your eyes when you say that. I just turn it on.
Well, you know what it's like?
It's so like, good.
I get to love my dad. I could cry now because because imagine loving the thing that you judged for that many years and how like and the gratitude that I give that, like Bambos might give to me. Now I can give that gratitude to my dad. Because all the years I didn't see that rage was this gift. I was judging it, and I didn't actually learn that was just another great emotion that I hadn't learned how to manage in myself or make peace with, right? Yeah. Speaking of rage,
I would skip an emotion, right?
What's that?
I would skip an emotion. So I would react, and I go straight to anger. And when I slowed that process down and take a step back, actually, all I needed to do was cry. And it was more difficult for me to take that step back and just allow the tears and show the pain. And it was more easy to jump into the reaction and put that force into someone.
Yeah.
So I think in this year it was so much easier for me to just go straight to the tears, or even induce the tears by watching a Rocky movie.
I can really relate to that. Like
How
using well, just using rage as a force field, using it as a sense of power. Like the deep hit of power that can come when we rage, like, because we finally made, like, I finally made a stand. I finally, like, got this thing out there. I finally said it. I said the thing that I hadn't said. And just somehow, like, how that creates this force field and this false sense of invincibility that, like, I now don't have to deal with what's really going on with me. And then coming to the other side and being like, oh, it's sort of this here. It's not really about that over there. Yeah, I definitely have experienced that invincibility when it comes to, or that, like, yeah, false sense of invincibility when it comes to rage.
I think, oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm sitting here and, like, something in me wants to be really naughty and like to drop us deeper, because I noticed we're talking about the rage, right? And
I lost my voice with it just a moment ago. I can. Where do you want to go?
Well, maybe just take a deep breath in and just tune into. I'm always, like, trying to tune into myself. What's the most vulnerable thing to express in connection to, especially when I'm with two people that I know are fully capable of embodying that.
Your question is, what's behind the rage? Is that the question?
No.
What was it?
I was saying that we're three very capable people of being fully vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I noticed the conversation stays a little bit on the personal, but it can, I think it can go a little bit more in the aliveness of the moment.
And what would that look like? Help me connect to that.
It could be, what would be the most difficult thing to express right now? If you don't even have to think about it, you just allow the words to unfold. Like, for me, what just came up when I held it back quickly was having a kitchen knife thrown at me when I was 9 years old by one of my parents who I'm not going to name. And I actually thought that was normal. I thought that was normal.
At 9 years old.
Yeah. So growing up in that situation, I didn't have a problem with anger because that was a norm. And as a teenager, having a knife and a baseball bat next to the car seat was a normal thing. I never realized up until the age of 25, actually, that, wow, that's insane. That's insane. Like, you're always ready
for a fight.
And I just, that boy just didn't know any better. That was it. And I didn't want to name the parents just because, just like Candy, I feel so much love for the journey that I've had with them. And yeah.
So I see that I crystallized sort of all the anger that my dad had in that moment of telling him the most vulnerable thing at the table when I was in, say, 8th grade. And then having him just get into a rage and grabbing me and throwing me out of the house and forcing us to walk home alone. And what I notice is that the rage almost isn't because of that. The rage is sort of connected to the fact that I had to apologize for it. You know, at 13, I guess, without, you know, just being vulnerable and then, you know, being raged on, sort of thing. And then,
so you triggered him, right?
It triggered him. Yeah, I triggered him by saying, he said, "What do you want from me? What do you want from me? What do you want from me?" And I said, "I want you to be more like my friend's dad." And that just blew his, like, as soon as I said it, he just raged. And so getting home, and then we didn't talk for 6 months or something, and then I was graduating. But then it was like this kind of thing that always happened is like, oh, you're the adult here. As a 13-year-old, you're the one that needs to apologize to your dad for what you said to him. And that I felt more resentment towards having to do that than actually him maybe getting even angry. Like, why do I have to be the one to do this? Why do I? That kind of feeling. Why? And then, of course, you have everyone trying to say, yeah, but he's not a healthy individual. He's this, he's that. So trying to justify his action as if some way him being that way is just him. And as a 13-year-old, you have to be the adult, when you're still feeling a kid.
Let's just take a deep breath in. After What's happening for you, Yana?
I just had a really big realization. Like, I just pieced two things together. So when I kind of lifted the hood and looked at what was under there, the first thing that came through was whiteness. And of course, it's a big theme with Black Lives Matter and everything right now. And me and Yana, we often have these conversations. We dive into them really full on, but I kind of like tracked, okay, where's the beginning of that? And it took me to, like, kids calling me Nazi at school. So I grew up in a small town in the north of England. My mama was German. And so my weirdness and being the oddball and me having a strange name came down to me being German. And so Nazi was the joke forever throughout my schooling.
Wow.
And then the vision. So I was like, well, where's the rage? And I realized that, like, I have these really strong memories of walking to school really mad that I was in a body, like just really, really angry that I was in a body. And I'd always taken that as like a soul body thing, but I've only just pieced like the whiteness. I'm a white person. I'm being defined by something physical as like a component to that. Just seeing like little me walking to school, just really angry that I'm in a body. Really, really angry. And yeah, piecing that together with all the Nazi jokes and all the Hitler jokes just popped something for me. Yeah.
I want to.
And I'm watching all of the little like unraveling and all of the like things that are connected to that are now like tumbling through my body and my mind.
We'll do the next show. I'm a Nazi. You can come on for an hour for that. That we always do the embrace the thing we resist. You know what I mean? That's our whole thing.
Just give a second though, because I feel that you're in a process there, right? And I know this is very easy to start talking over the process, and like this show can go any direction it wants, and I feel that I just want to stay with you a little bit more with what you were experiencing.
Yeah, I can feel it in my body. It's like in my shoulders. It's like pulling my shoulders forward rather than like standing tall. It's like in my belly. Yeah, it's just like, if I were to accentuate it, it would be like this.
How old were you, Yana?
I can just, gosh, primary school. So it must have been 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm not sure exactly what years. It's kind of all pulled into this common theme throughout primary school. Yeah, that like whiteness, body image, other women, like all of the things, all of them right now journey back to that. Just like swelling in my body. Yeah. I think the biggest word that's like sitting underneath all of it is confusion. Just feeling really fucking confused. Really confused. It's really interesting as well, just touching base with that confusion now. Like now I've named it. It's not about anything that was on top of it. It's just like, oh, confusion. That's what this feeling is.
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Oh, like I'm tuning in, and the word that came for me was I don't know. Confusion.
It's kind of this feeling like I used to cry to my mama. I used to like bawl. I used to cry to her, Mama, I'm a chameleon and I don't know what my real color is. And it's that in essence. Like I can understand this perspective and I can understand that perspective and I can hold this viewpoint and I can see it from there and I'm always gathering reference points. It's my favorite thing to do in the whole world, gathering reference points. Okay, so what does this person think? Okay, but what if I was standing there? Okay, what if I was standing over here? But like underneath all of that is just this confusion. So it's like, okay, a little bit of an answer here and a little bit of an answer there. There's never an ultimate answer. So we're just going to keep collecting lots of little pieces of answers to build a picture over the top of the confusion, to make the confusion seem a little bit more comfortable. But deep down, I'm just really fucking confused.
Yeah.
And like, I think any time I've raged, it's been that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been like, fuck, this is confusing. Yeah.
There's a chapter in the next book that I am going to be coming out with soon, and I meet this guy. He told me I could use his name. His name is Alton, and he's someone who needs to understand everything. So basically, he has a camera around his neck, and he records every conversation so he can go back and analyze it, so he can understand what he might have missed. So he has this days life flogging or whatever he says he does. And it was a very funny moment because I don't know exactly what I said. You read the chapter, I think.
I don't remember it though.
I was speaking to him, and I said, I help people make peace with whatever thoughts they have in their head. And then he said, how do you do that? And then I said, by not answering questions like that one. And the humor came in because his mind is like twisted. And then he's sitting there with the twist. He's checking to see his camera's working because he's like, whatever's going on, I need to like look back at this conversation. But the beauty was that I said, okay, you see how confused you are right now? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, I'm just as confused as you are, but I'm at peace with it. And there was this beautiful moment where we just sort of sat with like, if you're not allowing the confusion to just be without needing to put a construct, relation between 5 items that now gives you a peace of mind, then in some weird way, you're free.
I get that.
Yeah. And obviously, as you shared, I heard that chapter, and I hear it in myself because I'd say I'm always confused. You know, one might say, wow, it sounds like you articulate yourself. And yeah, it's almost like I let the confusion speak. That's the best. That's the best way to articulate it.
Yeah.
Because if I think before I speak, then basically it all comes out contorted, not authentic. It's trying. It's like a memory. Like I'm pulling from some idea that I had in the past and thinking that it's maybe relevant now, but I don't know if it's relevant. So in some weird way, I just say, okay, let the confusion speak. And I understand in time, it's once you've done it long enough, it feels comfortable. And I forget, of course, at times, how long it took me to be at peace with saying, Andy, you might say stuff that you don't even know what you're saying until afterwards. So it was almost like a leap of faith to say, allow yourself to speak and then deal with the consequences afterwards. As long as you feel the intention is pure, trust that over what you're going to say. And I see that's very much, I would say, encapsulates of very much how I chosen to live. Yeah.
And you do live that. Wow. I'm so happy we recorded this. I'm going to go back and analyze it.
What you don't know is, like, before we started doing this show, Bambos would record hour-long conversations we'd have, and he'd listen back to them. And so now we're actually doing it for and we wouldn't be doing this without Bambos, because I would be like, why would we talk for an hour about subjects? Who cares what I have to say? We have some comments, by the way. I showed it earlier, but we have Bambos's former girlfriend.
Just joyful to see all of you together sharing about this.
And she's going to be coming on the show. She's coming on the show. And I haven't got the title of the show yet, but I'm going to call it something like A Year Later. Something like that. Like something. Isn't that great to get them both on a year? They haven't been talking all that much. There was some struggle a year ago. Now it's sort of settled. But how great is it to have two people come back together after that time and sort of be and let that discomfort be shared on a live video? I mean, who wants more than that? Iris,
I think that's going to get a lot of ratings.
I might. Iris says, I would love watching what you said about tapping into the anger now and how does it serve?
That's when you shouted.
Yeah. I do it intentionally, almost like when I think, oh, I feel so helpless now and I've tried everything else. So let me try this one. So it's normally not my default. It's not like how I act. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let this be another one I use and see how it works. And I think there's an instance, I can't remember the exact instance, but there's one time that I allowed myself to be there and it worked out quite well. Right? I didn't attach to it. You know, the hard thing is, and that's kind of something that's, I think it goes back to this statement here. My father used to say that things about rage is something you turn on and off. And I would say that the freedom you have to let it pass through you. And then like, it doesn't mean there's not consequences afterwards, but it's almost like a much healthier life. The freer you are just to let your anger out, we can be clear that that's a healthier life. Yeah. Okay.
Love you. Now I'm on an interview.
Yeah. Get out of the room. We're busy. We're doing things. Sugar.
He can't hear us.
I know he can't. That's the fun of it.
I think he's got his headphones in. He's talking really loud. I've been clicking like, hey, your voice is getting louder. It's totally a thing. It's louder and louder and louder. And sometimes I'll be on calls. I'm like delivering whatever I am for my offerings, teaching, and I'll just hear his voice like getting louder. And it's like, okay, at what point do I go, hey love, hey love, excuse me? You know, I'm on an interview.
I love it.
He's like, I can hear you. Yeah. So the voice, I don't know if it was picking up for you or not. But.
Yeah, we heard a bit of it in the background.
I'm kind of wondering where are you guys going to unpack after this call, huh?
Probably lots around whiteness and race and things.
Yeah, that's been a nice topic lately. I've enjoyed this topic a lot, actually.
Whiteness.
Yeah, the whole, white privilege.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
This is white. You guys are not white. You're like pinkish, pale. Like that's white. Yeah. And for the black people, that's black. That's black. That's like you guys are like dark brown, chocolatey, sugary.
The jokes now, I think we have to be cautious of those only because
I'll get in trouble.
No. There's people out there at this moment that that it's so hard for them to process the emotion at the moment that even making any light of it is like it's hard. And I'd say I do it all the time. So I'm victim of this without a doubt. But at this very moment, there is a pain that goes beyond any lightening of it. Right? Not all that dissimilar from when I was making light of the I'm a Nazi. You know, like we do it, but in some ways there's a cherishing of somebody else's pain at this moment. I'd say. So I don't want that to go at least unseen. And that's my feeling.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've hit a time when the things that were apparent, that were existing but not apparent, are now becoming apparent, and it's almost like it's a reckoning where everyone has to sort of look in the mirror and say, there are things and ways I've behaved that I wasn't even aware of, and I think that's going to be like a 2 or 3 month long process at least. I mean, it'll be a lifetime, but I mean, an acute process in time where people are going to like need to reflect on it. You know?
I think as well, one thing I've been witnessing is like, you know, the witnessing in Nyeniso, especially, you know, because we have such a close relationship in the way we communicate and reveal ourselves to each other, like the weight of things being finally acknowledged, the weight of things, you know, when you don't get that apology for so long and then you're like, okay, I give up on the apology, and then the apology comes and it suddenly makes it real, and it goes, oh, that like validates my whole experience now, and now I have to actually face it and feel it for what it was. You know, I've definitely had those moments where the apology comes and I'm like, whoa, that didn't lift it, it dropped me into it, it made it real. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm witnessing right now, is this, you know, this collective, this mass acknowledgement that's starting to happen is actually dropping a lot of humans into the emotional body around this. And it's like, okay, now you have permission to feel. Now you really have permission to feel. And that's...
Wow. Yeah. It sounds no different than when Bambos confronted the guy on the bike and said, I think you're having a bad day. And then the guy broke down. It's almost like he could rage to the degree that he wasn't seen. But once you're seen, then it's then you feel. You just feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And having a tenderness around that has been so, like, such a big part of our connection as well. You know, me knowing when it's time to actually just, you know, sit back and let whatever's happening happen, and when to come in and when to like probe or support. Or I'm really aware that my husband's voice is getting louder again.
Yeah. It's great.
Just saying.
Yeah. Would you say that as you're holding space for him through this time, what are you learning through this?
So I'm actively going into a lot of like looking at figures of colonial history and unpacking them archetypally. So the same way that we would go like, where's my wild woman, or where's my warrior, or where's my king, or like working with these archetypes, I'm like, cool, Captain Cook, let me like wear that. Okay, Cecil Rhodes, let me wear that. Okay, like Winston Churchill, okay, let me wear that. Let me see how that fits. Where does it fit? How does it sit on me? And feeling it. And feeling it. And also I think there's a responsibility that I feel to understand that even if I don't identify with the narratives, I'm still a symbol. You know, I'm still a symbol in the psyche. I'm a symbol of whiteness in the psyche of people who still have, you know, so I can I can free myself of the narrative internally, but if I walk into a room, I still symbolize something to the people who are seeing me and are affected by this. And that's been a big thing. I mean, I'm also married to a black man living in South Africa.
And being in a biracial relationship, you're already being projected on by the whites and the blacks, I'm sure, as well, in that case.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. It's such a big topic. We haven't been unpacking it. We had a few people we were inviting on to actually have that topic discussed before Black Lives Matter came on. And because of the whole movement, we didn't have the shows, because they said we would have loved to have talked about it before, but now it's such a exhausting topic to bring up that the people that I asked to join just said, I do me a favor. I just don't want to do it now. So it was interesting. Yeah. We had a white privilege show lined up, and then it just dropped away because...
Was that with Jeff?
No, it was with someone else. It's a friend in the U.S. that he has a great backstory, but he's just said, Andy, it's just not the time. He's having to field. He's having to field. He has his own story where he was in a bad state and he ended up going to Harvard. And he feels the privilege of having gone to Harvard, and now he has to go back to his own community. And now, how does he now serve his community, given that he has a privilege? So there's a beauty in sort of how do you navigate that? Yeah. So thank you for hanging on for another, say, 5 or 10 minutes for us, because we normally would we would end the show at precisely at the hour, but this was just too delicious a topic not to continue with. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me here, and thank you for a lovely conversation.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. All the best to you.
Other side, Yana.
Yeah.
And you.
Bye. Wow. It was a great show. We went all over the place today.
Those are the moments when the mind is not really controlling anything, right?
No. I mean, the kind of the summary, the big takeaways for me on the show are kind of similar in some ways, is that whatever we suppress defines us. We've talked about anger, and we talked about any emotion that we sort of push down, and in some ways I would almost say, interesting. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Bambus told me that whenever I do this, all you do is see the bottom of my head and my receding hairline. Thank you, Bambus.
No problem. At least you have one.
We got to keep up appearances. When it's funny, as I spoke, I heard something come out of my mouth that didn't sound right.
What was that?
I heard myself say that suppressing rage, where I would say actually not allowing the helplessness then turns into rage. Not allowing the confusion, as Yana spoke about, then turns into rage.
Stepping over the emotion.
So stepping over the emotion. And usually the raw emotions where there's the loss of control. So if there's one sort of core takeaway from me on the show, it's really that rage is the ultimate act of helplessness.
Oof.
Yeah.
It's funny because I get a lot of male friends that say, how do you deal with anger? And actually, you've just said it so beautifully. There's a space before the anger that you don't allow yourself to feel because you're a man.
Yeah.
And men are not supposed to feel tears, pain, like,
So yeah, that would be a strong takeaway for me on this show, is that to the degree that we don't allow our emotions to be felt, they'll come out in contorted ways. And if we really suppress it, the ultimate contorted way is in rage. Yeah. Or sadness, fight or flight, right? So anything more from you?
No. I think that's a beautiful roundup.
Great.
I think Sunday you're going to come on and share what we have for next week. Right?
I don't think this weekend, because I'll be away.
Oh yeah, guys, the next show is on Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, we've got Bill Appleblossom, who was again someone from my high school days. He was a teacher of mine who I tortured. We're going to talk to him about my torture. I really did torture him, by the way. Like, I remember being in the car with him and I'm gonna feel really bad when I tell him back, but imagine the 16-year-old little idiot I am. We're in the car with 8 of us, and we're driving for a weekend to discuss what we're going to do for the student council. And I'm in the back seat, and I look forward, and he's with his wife in the front seat. And I remember saying to him, and I was honest, it was pure when I said it, I just can't imagine the two of you having sex. I just remember that as a child coming out of my mouth. It was so honest.
We're having him on the show
to talk about modern elders. He's very much into elder wisdom. He has Oxygen Buzz, which is a website which focuses on people over 50 on the second half of their life and living it to its fullest. So we're going to have him on Wednesday. On Thursday, we have Donna Breeden, I believe. I don't actually have her name in front of me. She wrote a book on journaling. It's a book that came out about 2 weeks ago. So we're going to talk about journaling, which is a big thing. A lot of the guests talk about how they use journaling as a way to make peace with their emotions and get clarity. And then on Friday, what's on the Friday?
I don't remember.
On the Friday,
remember that far.
We don't have a Friday. We took off Friday, and you know why we took off Friday? Because on Sunday, I am so damn excited. We've got Juan Man, the guy who started the Free Hugs campaign, the first viral video ever to come out. Why do I feel like I'm the only one so excited about this? Like, it's such his video. I've watched his video probably 1 million of the 78 million times it's been played. It has a Sick Puppy song on it, and it's just, I'm in such admiration of him, and I'll share why on that show.
Brilliant.
For me, he started a movement that everyone thinks is normal now, but at the time was really special. So that's it for today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. On what, Danvas? I got to get to it. Give me a few moments.
Wonderful chaos.
Was it really that wonderful?